Welcome back to MCOC AlBundyRules, showing here why I believe Cyclops is the most underrated champ in the game. Broken up into 3 parts. Damage highlights number 1. Part 2 is going to show some gameplay, big portions of fights with an emphasis and seeing her damage combined with one of easily the best power control features in the game. And then of course part 3 to go against one of the biggest complaints. See a nice 75,000 heavy there. People say she can't handle power control champs like Hyperion. I prove that theory wrong. Plus there's other ways too. People forget she has the same power lock abilities with her S2 as say like Magic. But even without relying on that, there's other ways to go about that. There's a way to increase her power gain quicker. We see 119,000 heavy. So make sure you look at all 3 parts. I'm starting off with this. Here I'm going to chain a bunch of S2s. People talk about her power control, maybe not fast enough. I say, you know what? If you know what you're doing, it goes plenty fast, as we're going to chain several S2s going on here. You see how it gains, each one went to a whole bar of power after the chain there. So it makes it nice and easy. And instead of people criticizing and learning how to use her, she's not just a straight 5-hit combo type of champ, people heavily underestimate her. Most of these fights I do have her because with the Horseman of Apocalypse synergy, which makes a big difference. She's an amazing champ without, but she is not the hardest hitter. So using that Horseman of Apocalypse gives stuff like that 64,000 heavies relatively easy. She can do those high heavies even without that synergy with Horseman of Apocalypse, but it's not quite as easy and quick to get. Here 187,000 for one heavy attack? Absolutely, you're seeing that correct. That's just one heavy attack. Charged up doesn't even take that long with the synergy to get there, and another 187,407 from one heavy attack. And then chain a little heavy on there too, do some damage. So I started off with this because, hey, who doesn't like some good massive attack ability? And people will say, yeah, there's harder hitters. I'm not saying she's the hardest hitter. I am saying she's one of the top power control champs in the game. There is no denying that. Watch this. You're going to see me control everybody's power effortlessly in these fights. 95% of these fights coming up in this gameplay, you're going to see me after I lock him in. You're going to see them gain no more power for the rest of the fights because she's that good. Again, at the end, I'll show a way to deal with power gainers like Hyperion, without even going into the obvious answer, which is using an S2 for power lock. Don't even need it. Don't even need it. So, going to be getting into a little bit of this here. I'm starting off with this. We're seeing some good damage. We're seeing like 8,000 mediums here. We're seeing a lot of stuff. This is just an R2 20 sig 6-star. Is all this is, nothing overly fancy, and we're seeing pretty good damage. Comparably, these attacks she's doing right here are much higher than a lot of these other champs and lights and mediums you will see within the game. Add an R2 and or even an R5 5-star. We also seen me doing, anywhere between on the 2-hit S2s. A lot of these I'm doing between 50 to 80,000 damage in a single S2. So am I saying she's the hardest hitter in the game? No, not even close. But one of the biggest criticisms against her on the haters have is say, oh, she hits too soft. That's not true. I'm thinking we're seeing that that's not true. Am I using a Horseman of Apocalypse synergy right now? Yes, I am. Can she still do pretty close to damage without that? Absolutely, but might take a little more build-up sometimes. But I am using the synergy. People talk about how great Cable is with that synergy, so why don't we talk about how great Cyclops is with this synergy? And unlike just the regular Horseman synergy a lot of other mutants might get, she gets those extra PYSLOCKE charges for the critical way easier with that synergy. That's one of the big takeaways of an extra thing she gets that other champs don't get with that Apocalypse synergy. One thing that is making her so great. But only the synergy is really doing for the most part is giving her a little bit easier to ramp up her damage. That's the main takeaway for her. Everything else is her, okay? So with or without the synergy, she's a great champ. She is in my short list of my next R3 6-star, yes, and that includes in comparison with people like Domino I have awoke. That includes Emma, who I'm a huge Emma fan, as most people know, and that includes over Cable as well, which Cable fully relies on the Apocalypse synergy to be even good. Cyclops is still pretty good without it, although she is better with it, and that's why I would take Cyclops over Cable easily, in my opinion, at this point. Between her and Emma and between her and Domino, that's a different question. I'm still deciding, as I only need another like 15,000 T5C muted before my next R3 6-star. And we're seeing, you see how I lock it in? If you're not sure what I'm doing, and unless you're decent with Cyclops, you probably have no clue how I'm keeping the power so controlled so well. And a lot of you don't even realize she can do this so easily. She can do this on 90% of the fights out there. People will want to justify magic or doom as being so good. They look for these faults or overemphasize small faults, or areas where might have slight overcomings on her, overlooking the fact 90% of fights she can do what she's doing right here. Every champ has a little area where they might not be the perfect fit for. There's really no exceptions to that in this game, part of the balance. So, we'll see I'm continuing on the fight here. If you're not sure what I'm doing, I do have a tutorial on Cyclops. I have a couple other little highlight clips on her as well. But I like this one. I wanted to redo one because the last highlight clip I had on her was just an R1 undupe. And I noticed such a huge difference between when I duped and got the SIG going, even only 20 SIG, and bumped it up to R2. I figured I needed to do another one to really show you just how good she is, because she just doesn't get any respect. A couple of opinionated tier lists have her in like middle of the pack or lower middle of the pack on the tier list, so everyone just automatically assumes she's bad. Please tell me how this is bad. Please tell me how she is not good. And very, very few people out here give her any consideration or due respect, and I believe it's time people at least look at this. Watch the video. Determine for yourself with your own eyes on what you are watching. Is she a pretty dang good champ? Am I saying she's the best? Absolutely not. Am I saying she can pack a punch? Yes, she can. We're seeing it. Can she control power better than 98%, 99% of the champs in the game? You're seeing it with your own eyes. So, give her a little bit of respect. Great champ. Continuing on forward on there. Does she benefit from a synergy? Absolutely. So do probably 75% of the top champs in the game, including your Colossuses, including some of these other champs here, Captain Marvel movies. They all benefit from a synergy, so don't hate on her because she benefits from a synergy as well. Continue to see some good damage, seeing those 64,000 heavies right there, and seeing these little clips. So picked a few random fights really in an easy area where I could really showcase what she could do. ROL is always a good spot for this because those high 500, 550,000 health pools. And keep in mind, you're seeing a high hit count here, but this is based on the fact that these are 550,000 health pools for the most part. We're looking at this massive damage here, and I'm not trying to get them down as quick as possible. If I was, I would just be spamming S2's other things like that. I'm trying to show a little variety of what she can do and trying to debunk the criticism that is mostly against you when people argue about her ability, which most of the time they just kind of follow the same basic things they hear from one or two opinionated lists at times instead of forming own opinions. So I'm trying to help educate here. Helping people get this champ off the roster gives a chance. And again, check out my tutorial on how to use her, how to control that power, to include ways how to control power against power gainers like Hyperion, all those power gain nodes. It's not that hard. She has a slower power natural increase, but there's ways to get her to 1 bar of power automatically. It's not very hard to do when you do it correctly. So those who say she accumulates power too slowly do not know how to use her correctly, because she actually accumulates power very quickly, and way quicker than my opponent does. Keep in mind, all these fights you're seeing, they're staying at 0 bars of power. I'm usually just staying around 3 because I don't want to blow my PSI charges until my heavy. So here, people will say she's not good against power gain champs here. So here's a quick demonstration. I am using a 3-star against a max 200 SIG R36 star here, just to show that she can control this. It's going to be a longer fight because I am, again, only using a 3 against a 6-star. I want to show what I'm doing. See, again, if you knock the bar of power down a notch on him, look at the timing. You see how I automatically gain a bar of power. I can keep spamming S1. Keep in mind, suicide, this is not a suicide-friendly strategy, so you're going to notice my power going down quick, not because of me taking any hits or the block damage, is because I'm taking a recoil with suicides. This is not the best fit if you are running suicides. If you are running suicides, you can do this all day, every day with no issues. And that includes those power gain nodes, your Hyperions, your champs like Mortal, those ones who are gaining power here. Again, time it correctly so that it goes down the bar. Watch the timing right here, and you see how if I brought him down from 2 to 1, I got 1 bar of power. That is how you get her power gain. So So again, those who are saying her power gain's too slow, she can't fight champs like this, they don't know how to use her correctly. I'm going to say that again. I cannot elaborate that enough. People will see her used or use her incorrectly a little bit and think that is correct, and it's not. Learning how to use them ourselves, doing a little bit better. So again, this one is also with no synergy. There's no Horseman synergy here. As we see up top, it's just a 3-star against a 6-star against a SIG 200 R3 6-star to make this fight a little bit more challenging. And the only issues I'm having again is my suicide masteries are on, causing 5% recoil each S1s. And in order for this strategy to work well, it takes a decent amount of S1s, especially with such a big difference between a 3-star against an R3 6-star. In a normal circumstance, I want to be there, and I could show it otherwise without all the recoil, but I don't want to waste a couple hundred units to take suicides off and put them back on just for one little clip. So you get the point. I'm hoping I made my point here. I'm showing why Cyclops is at least one of the most underrated champs in the game, if not the most underrated. If you didn't agree with this, please tell me what I have to do to prove otherwise, because I don't see how it doesn't show it. Anyway, hope you like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to MCOC AlBundyRules. Link on the left.